Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I am showing you an incredibly strange, super over-the-top strange deck that just made top 64 at the Japanese National Championships. It's Electro GX with Hippotas. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, not Hippowdon, Hippotas. That is not something that I saw coming personally. And also Electro GX, obviously, because Electro GX is pretty good. In fact, let's have a quick reminder about Electro GX. Now, this is a card that we're going to be getting in our next set. And it's one of the, it's an Electrode card. So you can knock it out, and yes, you have to give your opponent 2 prizes to do so, which is a little bit of a pain. But then, once you knock it out, you can attach 5 energy cards from the discard pile to your non-EX, non-GX Pokemon in any way that you like. Now, in theory, you've got the GX attack here, 30 damage plus 50 more for each energy you discard. But honestly, that's not really where we're going with this, because we're not even playing enough energy to do anything with this. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about the ability. Electrode is here to be KO'd and then go and rock and roll. And then we got Hippotas. Hippotas is one of these Pokemon, and like all of these, I do a video on them and people go, oh, there's no point even making a video about this, Ross. This Pokemon's no good, and then someone goes and makes a good deck with it. This is a classic example of a Pokemon that nobody thought was going to be good, and that people said I shouldn't even worry about, and then it goes and does well. Now, it's only got 90 HP, but it is an evolving basic, so that's pretty good for an evolving basic. But it does, for a fighting double colorless, 50 damage. But if you've got 3 cards or fewer left in your deck, it actually does 180. So the goal here is very simple. You use Electrode to get the energy onto Hippotas, preferably multiple of them, and then you run through your deck as fast as you possibly can, so that you can have 3 or fewer cards left in your deck, and then you hit for 180 with a single prize Pokemon. Now, this basically turns into a race against time, because as much as you're using single prize Pokemon, every time you KO an Electrode, you give your opponent 2 prizes. So hopefully you only have to do that once during the game, but if you have to do it twice, your opponent needs to take down a couple Hippotas to win. The goal on your part, however, is to make sure that you get going so fast that by the time you're hitting for 180 or more, your opponent just has no options. That you're doing this, turn 2, and your opponent just isn't set up enough to start going and getting KOs. And then, of course, our good friend N can come in and really hurt your opponent. Now, there is another really, really fun Pokemon we have here. And it's the Buzzwole. The Forbidden Light Buzzwole. Now, we know that the Buzzwole from Forbidden Light is good. This isn't a particularly new thing. But it does 120 damage for a single energy if your opponent has exactly 4 prizes remaining. And, of course, if you KO an Electrode and give your opponent 2 prizes, they will have exactly 4 prizes remaining. So there is a fun little trick here where you just KO Electrode and then immediately start hitting 120 with Buzzwole. Now, this was in Japan, obviously. In Japan are playing X and Y on, so kind of accosting our standard and expanded formats. But also, Zoroark is very big in Japan right now, bigger than it is over here, because they have still got Skyfield. So, yeah. Electrode blows up, you get a 1-hit KO on a Zoroark, and unless they get a Skyfield out, they can't get a 1-hit KO back. This is a very fun deck indeed. Now, there are a couple of other cards that we do see here. We see a Diancie Prism Star, just because we want Hippotas and Buzzwole, to be honest, to be doing an extra 20 damage. And we see Shaymin EX, because you can draw some extra cards. And we see an Oranguru, so you can draw some extra cards. Again, you want to draw cards here, you need to have 3 or fewer cards left in your deck. Although, side note, if you come across anyone playing something like Team Rocket's Handiwork, so that they can discard some cards off the top of your deck, this will not end well for you. because your opponent can just discard your last couple of cards and then win the game when you deck out. So that's the Pokemon. In terms of the energy here, it's quite simple. 4 strong energy, so you can do some extra damage. 4 double colorless energy, so you can get going in 2 energy attachments. And 1 fighting energy, purely just because it's not quite enough energy if you're only playing 4 strong. We do need 1 fighting. Of course, this does make you very vulnerable to special energy hate, like Enhanced Hammer, but you can't have everything. So if we go back to Hippotas quickly here, you're hitting 180, but then with a strong energy it's 200, then with a Diancie Prism Star it's 220, then with a Choice Band, and obviously you do play a Choice Band here, you're up to 250, and even something like a Metagross is going down in 1 hit here. If you get this working, you 1-hit KO anything. And the deck is very much built around getting this rolling. Now I should mention there is a single copy of Focus Sash here. It stops your opponent getting a 1-hit KO, although they can always play a Field Blower to get rid of it. Quite important given that you only actually have 90 HP. So we see here free Professor Sycamore. Obviously this wants to be your supporter of choice because you need to be a very fast deck. We see a copy of N, which is fairly important because, well, you might want to end yourself at some point to stop yourself decking out. We see 1 copy of Guzma because gusting effects are good, although you should be able to 1-hit KO anything in your opponent's deck. We see 3 copies of Versus Seeker, very important here because, you know, you need to reuse them supporters. We see the full 4 Puzzle of Time. This is a deck where you're trying to discard everything and draw very fast. In that regard, Puzzle of Time works beautifully. Don't worry about discarding it, but you're drawing enough cards here, you should get double Puzzle of Time. And then, of course, if you get double Puzzle of Time, you can play some of those more discarding cards, like, for instance, Acrobike and Battle Compressor. More on them in a second. We see 4 Acrobike here. Draw 1 card, discard 1 card from the top of your deck. Look at the top 2, you choose between them. This helps you draw cards, helps you discard cards, helps you get through your deck. 4 copies of Trainer's Mail, because again, it helps you to draw through your deck here. We see 4 copies of Roller Skates, flip a coin if heads, draw 3 cards. It's helping you to draw through your deck. 3 copies of Battle Compressor, discard 3 cards from your deck. Really important for getting energy in the discard for Electrode, but also quite good for putting stuff in a discard that you can find with Puzzle of Time, or discarding supporters to get back with Versus Seeker, or just thinning out your deck so you can get down to 3 cards in your deck. 3 copies of Ultra Ball, 2 copies of Nest Ball, that is your Pokemon search. Nest Ball here, really nice to search out your basics, like, for instance, Hippotas. We see 1 copy of Town Map. This is very important for if something like your Diancie or your N is prized, because otherwise you might find yourself decking out or being 20 damage short. There's a few one-offs in this deck. Important to make sure they're not lost in the prizes. That's where Town Map comes in. 2 copies of Floatstone to give your Pokemon easier retreat, like in a lot of decks. 1 Choice Band. You don't often need Choice Band because you're hitting up to 200 and getting a Buzzwole with either a strong energy or a Diancie Prism Star. Same thing with Ultra Necrozma. And you're getting an easy 1-hit KO on Zoroark for weakness. And they're the biggest GXs you're going to need to KO here. But nice to have it just in case. And 1 copy of Parallel City to slow your opponent down a little bit, to hurt your opponent in terms of getting rid of their bench, or maybe even limiting your bench and discarding your Shaman. You do not want Shaman on the field here. It's the only GX that you play other than Electrode, but if you have to get rid of 2 Electrode to get all your energy on the field, although 1 should hopefully be enough to get, 2.5 Hippotas going, and then your manual attachments will finish off. But if you do have to bench a Shaman here, you need to get it off the field, and Parallel City is a great way to do just that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Hippotas Electrode deck that got top 64 at the Japanese National Championships. That is incredibly strange. and I don't think many people saw it coming. Another great example of a card that everybody sits around and goes, it's garbage, can never work, and then it goes and does really well, and it's not easy to do well at the Japanese National Championships, and I know that there are some cards that really help this out that have rotated out of the format. Certainly Battle Compressor comes to mind as a card that's really good in this deck that we've lost, but you know what? It's still a fun deck, it'll work in Expanded, and even though you lose Battle Compressor, it could be quite fun in Standard as well. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know from you guys, do you think this is a viable deck? Do you think it's a good deck? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. And do check out my video game / Dragon Ball Super channel, Wossy Plays. We just uploaded a video about the Microsoft E3 press conference. I think it's pretty good. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.